Yura, Winjai Marumba, welcome and g'day to the 24th and final character strength in our Religious Education and Prosper pilgrimage. This week we're focusing on the strength of forgiveness, which for the collective student body and Iona is found at number 11, and for me personally is considerably more challenging at number 22. In a community of 1,750 boys and 200 staff, forgiveness is regularly needed throughout the course of a day. Even though we're on a large property, we come into contact and conflict at various different times, and forgiveness is a necessary ingredient for the smooth running of this school and our society. I know that I have much to learn from many people regarding this strength, and I guess I've struggled with this one for a long time. So any advice that you might suggest for this video and that we might suggest is something that I'm giving to myself as well. Every single one of us has strengths in the higher and lower reaches of the 24, and this one has proven tough for me. If you read some of Eugene's writings, he too struggled with this character trait, most noticeably when he was betrayed or hurt by others. Last week we celebrated NAIDOC Week, which brings focus on the long-standing connection and care for this land by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders for more than 60,000 years. Its theme was, always will be, and recognise the spiritual and cultural connection. Without being able to go into it too much detail here, I'm truly humbled that after all of the challenges, obstacles and triumphs faced by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, there is still a willingness to share their culture, story, art, tradition with our wider Australian society. It's week like NAIDOC Week that really helped me focus on the tremendous strengths and significant challenges in front of us. I'm truly confident though that the best days of relationship and forgiveness are ahead. We also celebrated Remembrance Day last week, hence the poppy, and at 11 a.m. we had a minute's silence in memory of those who died so that we might live. Forgiveness is a concept well understood by Jesus and was one of the key aspects of his earthly ministry. We know that it became his final act of service when he forgave those who worked at his execution. Earlier in his earthly ministry, he taught the disciples a prayer. Indeed, the prayer that Jesus taught us and invited us to pray has a significant challenge when it comes to forgiveness. It said, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us," from the Gospel of Matthew. This passage presents us with an ideal we try and strive for, but it also presents us with the consequences if we don't strive for it. Forgive and be forgiven. Both must be desired and sought after. When forgiveness is properly understood, it's much easier to desire, to give, and to receive. When it's not properly understood, forgiveness can be seen as confusing and a heavy burden, and therefore something undesirable. Perhaps the greatest challenge to the act of forgiving another is the sense of justice that can appear to be lost when forgiveness is given. And this is especially true when forgiveness is offered to someone who doesn't even ask for forgiveness. On the contrary, when someone does ask for forgiveness or expresses true remorse, it is sometimes easier to forgive and abandon the feeling that the person should pay for what they've done. But when there is a lack of sorrow on the part of the offender, this leaves what can feel like a lack of justice if forgiveness is offered, and this can be a difficult feeling to overcome that I found in myself. It's important to note that forgiving another doesn't excuse their sin. It doesn't mean that the sin didn't happen and that it's okay that it happened. Rather, forgiving another does the opposite. It actually points to the sin, acknowledges it, makes it central, and that's important to understand. By identifying the sin that is to be forgiven and then forgiving it, justice is done, but in a supernatural way. Justice is fulfilled by mercy, and the mercy offered has even greater effect on the one offering it than the one that it's offered to. By offering mercy for the sin of another, we become freed from the effects of their sin. Mercy is a way for God to remove this hurt from our lives and free us to encounter his mercy all the more by the forgiveness of our own sins, for which we could never deserve on our own effort. It's also important to note that forgiving another does not necessarily result in reconciliation. Reconciliation between two people can only happen when the offender accepts the forgiveness offered after humbly admitting their mistakes. This humble and purifying act satisfies justice on a whole new level and enables those sins to be transformed into what we call grace. And once transformed, they can even go so far as to deepen the bond of love between two people. If we think about the person that we most need to forgive, or people, who are they? What have they done that has offended us? Don't be afraid to offer mercy and forgiveness, and try not to hesitate in doing so. The mercy you offer will bring forth the justice of God in a way that you could never accomplish in your own efforts. This act of forgiving also frees us from the burden that the sin of that sin enables God to forgive us of our sins. There's a prayer that goes, Lord, I'm a sinner who's in need of your mercy. Help me to have a heart of true sorrow for my sins and to turn to you for that grace. And I seek your mercy. Help me to realize and to forgive the sins of others who have committed against me. I do forgive. Help that forgiveness to enter deep into my whole being as an expression of your holy and divine mercy. Jesus, I trust in you. And for me personally, I've always tried to distinguish between two types of forgiveness. One is the forgiveness of restoration, the other forgiveness of salvage. Restoration is the forgiveness needed to restore relationships with those that we love and care for. But forgiveness of salvage is the forgiveness we offer for our own benefit, to salvage our own dignity. The forgiveness of salvage does not mean we have to have a connection or a relationship again with that person who hurt us. Both types of forgiveness are very challenging. And in the second video, I'm going to try and explore why I might find that so difficult and maybe to help others to overcome it. Take care, God bless, kia kaha, keep forgiving, and I'm giving myself the exact advice that I'm trying to share with you. Thank you.